Okay, hi. Hi guys. I am getting settled. I hope I'm in the right spot. And I know my lighting is horrible, but I don't care. Where'd my pen go? I was actually debating about whether or not I even wanted to make this video because, I don't know, I'm just done with it, but the whole experience. But at the same time, I am trying to be real with you guys and show you like as much as possible in our lives and mom and wife and life of a homemaker and law enforcement wife. And this morning I had the most horrible thing happen. Like, I don't think there's been worse. Like, I don't know, there might have been, but it's up there. I'm pretty sure this was the worst. This weekend is John's UTA weekend, and for some reason they have 4 days of it. So he went down last night after he worked 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. They just give him a swing shift. So he worked 12 p.m. to 10 p.m., came home, packed up, and left. So he was probably gone by 10:30, drove down there, and I said, call me if you need someone to talk to, because I'm always worried, because he hadn't slept good the night before either. So I said, call me if you need me to talk to you while you drive. Text me when you get there so I know you're down there, because he goes the back way that I really don't like. I even said, at least go the normal highway way so that if you like go off the road, someone will find you before next week. I was totally joking and he was joking, and we were just having fun with it. And he had a snack. He had packed snacks. Then he was going to go get like a Mountain Dew or something caffeinated from the gas station before he went down. And I ended up falling asleep about midnight, I think it was. And he texted me at 2 saying that I'm down here safely, I love you. And I didn't get that till I woke up this morning, and I texted him about 8 o'clock and said, I love you too. And then I didn't hear from him. And that's pretty normal, because he goes into the Air Force Base and sometimes he can't have his phone. Sometimes he doesn't have time to answer. I'm pretty used to not getting a response from him on his Air Force days. So I wasn't thinking anything of it. I just thought he had to report early. End of story. And he didn't like say good morning or anything because he didn't want to wake me up. Cool beans. So we kind of had a slow start to the morning. It was about 10 o'clock, and I thought, well, I want to go to story time at 11:15. And I thought that'd be good to start getting into story times and stuff to keep us busy so we get used to going while John is gone. And big kids were getting dressed. I was back changing the baby and putting his clothes on, and someone knocked really loud. And Ty was like, I'll get it. And I was like, no, you don't go get it. I'm sorry. My nose itches, and I don't know why. I said that was an adult knock, and I don't let them answer the door if it was an adult knock. And I was like, was it the back door or the front door? Well, Ty went to the front door and cracked it open, and he said, it was the front door. It's an officer. And I was just coming down the hall, and I said, an officer? And he opened the door wider, and it was an officer. And I was like, okay. And my first thought was, which one of our poopy neighbors like called the cops on us or something, because I couldn't tell what department he was with. And then I recognized him as I walked to the door. He actually lives in our neighborhood. So I was like, oh, I know you. And he was like, yeah. And so I was trying to get the door unlocked anyway. And he said, we need to get a hold of your husband. And I was like, well, it's his Air Force weekend, so he's not here. And he was like, okay, when did he leave? And I was like, last night at like 10:30, and he was like, when did he leave? And I said, when he left, I said, I got a text message from him this morning saying that he got there, but I haven't heard from him, and I don't know how to get a hold of him. I don't know. I usually just text him, and then he texts me back when he can. And he said, well, okay, so you haven't heard from him this morning? And I was like, no, what? And I said, is he in trouble? And he was kind of like, he was kind of like, maybe. Like, he didn't want to, answer that question. And so we talked a little more, and then he said, can I just talk to you? Because the kids, are all like, right here, wondering what's going on. So I said, yeah, sure. And I said, go play with the baby. Don't worry about school. Go play with the baby. I'll be right out here on the porch. So I went out, closed the door behind me, and I'm in like my camisole and sweatpants still. I wasn't even dressed, which was kind of embarrassing, but oh well. He said, well, because I said, is it bad? Like, is he gonna lose his job? Like, I could not. I was like, what did John do? Like, is there something that he didn't, I don't know. What's the worst case scenario that you can think of that they won't tell you why your husband's in trouble? I don't know. And he said, I don't know. Okay, honestly, I would make the most horrible witness. I don't know exactly what he said. But he said something to the effect of, no one can find him. And I kind of was like, what? And he said he didn't report to duty on the Air Force Base, and no one can get a hold of him on his phone. No one knows where he is. And I just, like, you kind of get that, like, I don't know, like, I just was focusing on what he was saying, and all of a sudden I'm like running through, like, I did get a text message from him, so I know he got down there safely, so where in the hell could he be? And I started crying. I was like, oh, and I control it when it actually happens, and I was just like crying. I was like, what? And I'm trying to talk to him, and I'm like, no, that can't be right. Like, and I tried to call John myself, and I got his voicemail, and oh my gosh, I was apologizing and like wiping my tears away, and my hands were shaking, and and he was like, it's okay, I'm sorry. He said, I just didn't want to leave and have you find out that this is why we were asking questions, and you be mad that I didn't say anything. And I was like, well, I appreciate that, thank you. And so we were talking, and I was like, okay, like, what? Like, I know he got down there because I got the text message. I texted him this morning, but I'm used to not getting a response. I don't know what time he had to report, but, oh, he had a test this morning that he had to go in for. And so I'm, like, running through, like, okay, he had the test at this time, and I'm looking through the emails because for the name of the hotel that he was supposed to be staying at, and I finally found it, and I just, like, well, and back before he told me no one could get a hold of him, I said, if I hear from him, who does he need to contact? And they were like, just his corporal, just have him call his corporal. And I'm like, okay. But seriously, I thought it was a big trouble. So then he gave me his card after this whole missing business. He said, here's my card, there's my work number. Here, it has my personal number on the back of it if you hear anything, or if you, and he said, we'll be in touch. So I was like, okay, but I kept saying, like, he had that test. This has to be a miscommunication. He had that test at 8:30 that he was supposed to take. Somebody has screwed up. And he's either in the test and no one knows, or it also crossed my mind that he'd be sleeping. I mean, he was running on, like, 4 to 6 hours of sleep from the whole previous day. I said, or he's, like, overslept and not hearing his phone. Like, those are the only two things I could think of, was he's either overslept and not hearing his phone, or he's in this test and the Air Force has screwed up and they, like, he's there, they just don't know it. So he said, well, we'll be in touch. And so I came back in and just, like, I have never hurt so bad in my life because no one knew where he was. No one could get a hold of him. And it's just like, You never want an officer to come to your door and say something like that. Don't tell me you can't get a hold of my husband. I've never hurt so bad in my life. I mean, it's an unimaginable pain. And so I came in and I was crying and the baby was crying. So I took the baby and I came into my room, or I headed into my room, and I called John again and I got his voicemail. But this time I left him a message saying, hey, no one can get a hold of you. Where the hell are you? Like, I just had an officer show up at my door saying they can't find you. Please call me back, you know, and I love you. And I hung up from that and I immediately called my grandma because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know what to do. And I called my grandma, and as soon as she answered, and I could barely talk, I was so, as soon as she answered, John called through. And so I was like, oh my gosh, he's calling through. I'll call you back, I promise. Because all I had gotten to her was, no one can find John. So she was like, yeah, okay. So I hung up on her and I answered him, and he was like, I'm so sorry. I was in the test. I knew it. I was in the test. The one and only person, you know, and he's not allowed to have his phone during the test, so blah, blah, but he was given permission to go straight to the test, so he didn't report in because he was going straight to the early morning test. Still sobbing when he was talking. I could barely breathe, was just crying and crying and crying and crying, and he was like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. This is so stupid. And I was like, I'm okay now. I was still so upset, and I still am, but it's different. I don't know. So he said he finally figured out that the one person that knew he was taking the test failed to notify anyone else. And that person is out on leave. So he's out on leave, but he was still taking care of stuff. And John even said, when do I need to schedule this test? And he said, just schedule it and let me know, and we'll work around it. So then John scheduled it and let him know. And John said, do I need to let anyone else know? And he said, no, I'll take care of it. And then he didn't. The Air Force guy did not tell anyone else, inform anyone else. So John went into this test, and when he didn't report for duty, they all panicked. And I don't understand. I guess someone called his dad, and I don't know if it was the Air Force or the State Patrol, but the Air Force got a hold of State Patrol and said, hey, where's John? And they were like, we don't know. He's not here. So somehow his dad got called. And of course his dad didn't know. His dad didn't know about the UTA. Well, he might have known about the UTA, but he didn't know about the testing. He doesn't know anything, pertinent, so he couldn't answer their questions. Oh my gosh. And so now I keep thinking, why did they call his dad? I mean, I think the wife, and poor John, but I'm going to make sure that he changes things to where with the Air Force and State, I am the number one emergency contact. Because I don't care if they were not calling the wife because we don't want to freak her out or whatever. But if they had called me, I could have told them about that test. And then they would have been like, oh yeah. But because they went through his dad and then work, that I was the last one they checked in with. And I don't know. That was the worst experience ever. And so I was I was still sobbing when we were getting dressed, and we went to story time, and I probably cried through story time, and then John called me back while we were in story time, and I cried some more, and the library probably thinks I'm crazy. And then we came home and we had lunch and we did some school, and the babies did not nap at all. Phoebe and Pierce didn't nap, and I've talked to John a couple more times on the phone and texting. And it just, and then I put it up, I was able to dictate what it was, and I put it up on Facebook because I was a mess. I'm still a mess. I'm better now. I am more exhausted and numb now, but all through the day I was still a sobbing mess, even though I knew he was all right. I had talked to him on the phone, and I was still a mess. And one of the other wives said, I've had that happen, and once it was an accident, and once it was the real thing, that her husband had been involved in an incident, and they had to send an officer, and I can't even, imagine I said, you're never allowed to have anything happen to you, because I never want to experience that again. I never want to experience one of your fellow officers at my doorstep, because I died inside for that couple minutes. And now I know that if it does happen, I am not going to be as stable as I think I was going to be. I'm going to be a wreck. And if it ever is the real thing, Fit's going to hit the shan. If it's ever the real thing, but my gut kept saying, the Air Force is screwed up. The Air Force screwed up. He's fine. There's been a miscommunication. And that's exactly what it was. Oh! So, but now I get to go today, tomorrow, and Saturday without seeing him. All you want to do is be with them and hug them and kiss them and hold them after that kind of scare, and you can't for 3 days. So that was today. Crappy day. Story time was fun. It's just been a day since then. But so that was my horrible law enforcement experience, and it better not ever happen again. And I just figured, I'm being transparent, and I need to share this. And I know some people are like, well, nothing was actually wrong, so get over yourself. I will. Tomorrow I'll wake up better. But today I'm still kind of, oh my gosh. I don't know. It's I guess an adrenaline, maybe a hormone thing, adrenaline dump or something, that I got so when it happened, that then now I'm I don't know. I have no idea. But I am going to finish my Rizzoli and Isles. And I have a cup of coffee that I'm probably not going to drink. I haven't had coffee in 24 hours. It just doesn't sound good. And I'm doodling. And that's it. So, thank you. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to me. Oh my gosh. Talk about this. I mean, that's the scariest thing, I think. This was the worst. You get that, literally that tunnel vision. Everything gets dark. And then the whole world, you can just see, the world falling down around my front porch. I don't know. And the guy that came and talked to me was so nice and so calm, and I kept apologizing for crying, and he was so sweet about it. But John Sargent wants a meeting, because they're not in the practice of telling wives that they're missing troopers or something like that. And so I told John, I want in on that meeting. You better tell him that my wife will be in attendance at that meeting, because there's no way in hell they're going to make this negative on him. You know what I mean? This was not his fault. This was the freaking Air Force's fault. And I even told John, the guy that messed up at the Air Force better get his ears chewed off. And he says that he will. He says that there will be at least lectures involved because this is a big thing. Not reporting for duty is an arrestable offense if you just decide to play hooky with the military. And so, this is a very serious thing. So I hope the guy, I mean, I don't want him to like get in trouble, but I do, because you don't mess around like that with people. That is an arrestable offense, and his work had to get involved, and they came to my doorstep and scared the living out of me. So I hope you get your ears chewed off, sewn back on, and then chewed off again. That's how mad I am now, but I'm okay. So I'm going to finish my stuff. I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you all for listening. I love you so much. That's it. I hope you guys have a fantastic whatever time of the day it is. Bye.